Think about this. We go to the grocery store, we have a shopping list of things we're looking for. But when it comes to our dating life, we're just winging it.
And when you don't have that shopping list, I find that you end up running in circles, overspending, and a lot of the time you're left with buyer's remorse.
Or you forget why you're there, which is a problem when you're dating.
Hi, it's Caitlyn.
Hi, it's Debbie.
And welcome to Dating at Her Age.
Okay, Caitlyn, today we're going to tackle the topic of a shopping list for our dating life. This hit us because we realized we go to the grocery store with even a little Post-it note with things we need like lettuce and tomatoes and salad dressing, on a Post-it note. But we haven't bothered to sit down and write out a list or think through what we want for a relationship, which sounds silly. And so today we're going to start tackling that.
Right. And when you go to the grocery store without that type of list, it turns into just a mess and you end up overspending. And so I think that's an interesting challenge to actually sit down, because I don't even know if I fully know what I want until you think about it.
Or what happens when you get home with something like you didn't need to buy, and that you put that in your dating life scenario.
Buyer's remorse.
Yeah. So I think this is a unique way of looking at our dating lives and what we really want in a relationship, if that's what we're going for, without overspending.
Yep.
Or without missing something.
Yeah.
So I'm going to can you start first?
Yeah.
What do you have? You've written down your list. I've written down a list. You go first.
Okay. This is overarching. I think that you agree with this as well. But generally, I think my first number one is I want a partner in crime, someone who's there for me. I want to find my person who is able to be there for me in all life events, for work events, for traveling adventures, hard times, just overall the umbrella of the situation. I just want a partner in crime.
So how do you see that working on a daily basis? Like, are you guys going to just get in the car at midnight and run down to the 7-Eleven together?
Maybe sometime they should be open to that, but just kidding.
Go get sodas at 1 a.m.?
Just be there for me so I can also be there for you. Just be that support. I just need your energy there, and I need to know that you're there. And if I need to go run the streets at midnight on a Friday, you should be wanting to come with me. Maybe.
I love it. Can I go?
Yes.
Okay. So at the top of my list is, and this plays well off of your partner in crime. And this really goes to the times I've been on a dinner date with somebody, and I'm sitting across from them and I'm thinking, why am I here? Where do I fit into this person's life, and where do they fit into my life? Because they said in their dating profile, I hate hiking. Well, I love hiking.
Yeah.
So for me, writing this list is so important. So I can just avoid unnecessary dates. And some people may say, hey, look, it's just great to connect with anybody. Mm-hmm. But if you've been at this dating game long enough, you realize that sometimes these are just not going to go anywhere, and you end up spilling your whole life story over a 2-hour dinner, and you're just it's not going to take off. So my top thing on my list, my shopping list for dating, is somebody who needs. Let me just cut to the chase. I don't want an Eeyore.
Yeah.
Do you know who Eeyore? I mean, like Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Somebody who matches my energy. I'm heading into my late 50s. I still have a ton of energy. I like to get in the car on a Friday afternoon and go out of town on a road trip. I like to hike. I like to go to baseball games. I like to just keep going all the time. It's just not going to work for me to keep dating couch potatoes.
Right. And I think I can even relate to that if on the opposite side, because I want all that adventure as well, but I also would like someone who can match my energy when I say, hey, I just want to stay at home this weekend and just hang out with you, or go get a nice cup of coffee or whatever, just kind of have a quiet weekend. But I seek that adventure, but someone who can kind of match your energy, but also understand where you're at in certain things, and vice versa, both ends.
I think that's important. It has to go both ways. Mm-hmm. It's not just all about, hey, Deb wants to go hike some random trail, and her girlfriends are tired of meeting her at the base of the trail and hiking up, so you have to. It's both ways. So if they've got things they want to do, I have to be up for their adventures too.
Yep.
Fair is fair. Okay, you go next.
My next one, I'll just trail off of that, because I think that there's also you want them to be on your same energy, but also respect your space as well. So that's kind of a big one for me, because I've always said I wouldn't really know how to be in a relationship if I gotten one because I don't know how to do it because I'm so independent. And so I think I get overstimulated and overwhelmed when there's a lot of people in my energy. So somebody who just can, if you have to learn to understand that, like give me my boundary if I come home from work and it's been a very overwhelming day and I may need to just be in silence for an hour or so. Someone who can be that kind of soft, safe space, but also respect the boundaries that I have.
So a mind reader.
Well, I will be glad to communicate all of these things, but I just
that's what's meant that you just want me to read your mind.
No, I mean you can't assume that. And that's why like I have to take accountability for these things as well. I can't just assume there's a perfect person out there that's just going to bow down to me and do everything that I want. But I just think that I know that I need my space, and as long as somebody understands that, I'm happy to understand that for them as well. Because I just think I need to be with somebody who has their own self-awareness with space and can respect mine, but it's not offensive if I don't talk to you for like an hour. Like, you know what I mean?
And mine, I mean, probably yours too. Mine have been formulated over years of trial and error.
Yeah.
Being in and out of dating relationships, also, in a marriage for 21 years, of what I now know I need on that shopping list. Mm-hmm. So I don't waste everybody's time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have learned that I definitely need is mutual trust.
Yeah.
I cannot be a suspect in somebody's, courtroom crime drama who's making up, things in their head about what's going on in my life, like why I was late or where I was, and I don't want to have to lay this out for somebody I'm dating, but I've literally passed an FBI polygraph exam to go to work for the FBI back many years ago when I was their spokesperson. So if I can get through an FBI polygraph, odds are I'm a horrible liar anyway. So I would love to be in a long-term relationship where there's consistent mutual trust and I don't feel like I'm a suspect.
Right. Well, I think every relationship needs that.
Do you think more people have that than they admit to?
I would hope so, but I actually have no idea. So because I have friends who are in relationships that, if they come hang out with me and they're, I don't know, not communicating for a little bit, that their significant other gets kind of like on them. But then I have other people who don't even care because there is that trust. And that's what I strive to have as well. I think that there should be trust. And if you have a reason not to trust them, you have to work through that.
Would you allow somebody, and I don't know when this happens in a relationship, because I haven't had this asked of me in the years I've been dating since my divorce, would you allow your significant other to track you on your cell phone? You would?
Yeah. At a certain point.
So you would let them?
Yeah,
track
I don't have anything to hide. So, if I'm just in the early dating stages, absolutely no. I would have to be in a committed relationship, I think, at that point, because I don't want someone stalking me. But
interesting, because I'm not, and maybe this is because I'm so much older than you are.
Maybe
30 years. I dated in the 90s and late 80s when we didn't have a way to track. You just trusted.
Well,
so things have changed a lot.
That's great. I don't even think I need it to be watching them every second, but I think that I don't have anything to hide. So why not? And I think I probably say that because I have anxiety and I have it with just my parents and my siblings and stuff, and we have a tracking app. And so when I get anxious, I look and see if they're on their normal schedule, and I'm like, all right, everything's fine. And so for me, just with my anxious brain, which I need to work on, I'm aware that that's something I have to work on for myself. I would like to just be able to look like, oh, they're at work. They're just, they're downtown. Nothing's out of order.
I wish that I felt like most people were using tracking apps for that reason. I think a lot of people in relationships use them because they're worried their significant other, the new love of their life, is cheating on them.
I can see how it could be a problem. So I do think maybe it does depend. If there's enough trust there that you don't need to track it, then cool. But also, if there's enough trust there, it shouldn't matter. So I don't know. I
think this is going to have to be a really interesting long-term discussion with me, with my significant other, if I ever meet anybody again down the line. Because for some reason, I am not as, I would totally let them. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not as in tune with that.
I don't know. I don't know the perfect answer. That's just how I feel about it.
I
would
don't
like
either.
to see. but it's because I have some of my friends on there. I like to know where they're at randomly, but it's not because I'm stalking them or like trying to find them lying in something. It's just because, that's what they're doing. Nothing is out of sorts. I have no reason to worry.
I wish I did have a perfect answer to that. I think it just depends on the relationship and where it's going, what the motives are behind, and how far into the relationship you are with that person.
How far in it would be very far in for me. I'm not like, I would have to know you for a couple of years, probably.
A couple of years?
Maybe a year. I would say at least a year.
Oh, I was thinking like months.
No.
You would think it'd be a couple of years.
You don't know who, unless you know them very, very well. That's for me. It has to be somebody I trust that I know they're not going to stalk me.
Okay, so, it's your turn now. What else you've got on your shopping list?
Doesn't run. Someone who is willing to face things when they get hard. They don't run away when things get hard, because life can be hard. And I feel like people stick around when things are good, but as soon as something gets kind of tough or gets a little, difficult, they hide and run and don't want to face it. I need to be with somebody who's willing to face things and not basically waste my time by not facing it. And that's just because I just think there's so much time wasted on just not dealing with things and not communicating how you feel, and not like, because we just go in circles on certain issues because they don't want to face it. And it frustrates me when that happens.
Caitlyn, you know what I think is a huge contributor to that these days is the options.
Yeah.
People have to just dump the person they say was the love of their life and go out there and find somebody else. And then they often find the grass isn't greener. Things are difficult all the way around. You can trade one issue for 10 other issues. And so that's just hard, because when there's so many options compared to what there were some decades ago, and they're at people's fingertips now. Mm-hmm. It's easy to run away when the going gets a little bit tough, right?
Yeah, it's certainly the easier option. But if you're really serious about wanting to be in a relationship, you should be willing to try to do everything to stay in that relationship, is how I feel about it. And I'm willing to work with people on getting there. Like you can have like a few issues where you're like, okay, why didn't you communicate with this? And then you have to communicate. I can't just expect someone to be perfect right off the bat. But I just think that you eventually have to get there, because I'm the type of person where I don't like to not deal with things. Like things can be so simply like just fixed if you just talk about it. So,
you know what else I have on my list? This is going to be potentially an unpopular opinion. I have thought a lot about this. So before people come after me on this, trust me, I've thought through this. I've actually experienced this in a dating relationship. I don't want to have a relationship with somebody who's my age and has young kids. There, I said it. I've done it before, and when they are preteen and teen and even younger, I've dated men with extremely young kids who are my age, mid-50s. I've gone down that path. I've raised 3 kids. They're all now in their 20s. I don't want to relive that part of my life again. Yeah. It sounds very selfish. They may be the most wonderful kids on the planet. I don't doubt that they are. I mean, whatever you said about them, the best choir performer, the best softball pitcher, whatever it is, they are going to graduate, with honors from Yale. I totally believe you. It's not the lane I want to be in anymore. And I'm interested to see how you feel about that, because you haven't been married and you're in your late 20s now, where men will have probably gone through divorce who have kids. But for me, it's more like they can have kids. I just can't relive
the toddler years.
The toddler years. And honestly, I've dated a man who had a child under the age of 10. And I just think about the co-parenting with the child's biological mother, who is queen, in my view, absolutely queen. But then we have the child for the weekend, and then maybe there's some discipline involved. And I'm just thinking of all the nightmare scenarios that I no longer want to I don't want to find myself involved in any of that. So for me, I am being completely avoidant of that situation, and I have stopped going out with men or pursuing a relationship with a man I find out has young kids.
Well, and I think that makes sense. It's just you're past that. I don't think that you need to. If I was in your shoes, I'd probably feel the same way. And it's an interesting question for me, because I am 29. I want kids of my own someday. The clock is ticking, but then you're right that the dating pool that's a lot of people my age probably do have kids. Not everybody. I know a lot of my friends don't have kids and they're older than me.
But do you worry that the dating pool is shrinking?
Definitely. I know that I can't even make that a non-negotiable. Like it's something I would have to like be open to, but it actually terrifies me because I don't know how to be like a stepmom. Like I'm still a child.
You'd be learning.
Like I don't know how to do that. So it's scary.
So you would be learning like everything there is to know about this new man in your life, and then also learning how to be a mom.
And it's not that I'm not open to that if I cared about the person enough, but it is something. And then are they open to having more kids? Because I would like to have kids of my own. Is it done? And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So like that, and it's all just going to be, it would be case by case situation. But that would scare me if someone had a kid, and I wouldn't rule it out. I like kids, but it's scary.
What happens if they have 4 kids?
That's a lot. That's would scare me at my age right now. I don't think I could handle it, which is rude to say. And that I feel bad for the man who is trying to date that has 4 kids, but I don't think I could. I can barely take care of myself right now. But
I think this is good to know, though, as you're going out and on dates, and also, and we'll talk about this in an episode down the road. I think what we want to try to avoid is swooping into a child's life and then swooping ourselves right back out.
And that's part of the reason is I wouldn't actually want to be inserted into that until I knew for sure that this was going to be a long-term thing. So I don't want to say I'm completely against it, but that is a lot to take on. If it's like more than 2 kids, I would say. But I
did have a man try to sell me on this. I have him every other weekend. So every other weekend I can spend time with you. Well, okay. But things come up in a child's life, and there's soccer games, and so every other weekend, really. And I would never want to stop anybody from being with their child. Absolutely, that's priority number 1. But do I want to be like on a sideline at a 3-year-old soccer game? I've done that, and it was wonderful when my kids were fighting over the ball. But at this point in my life, like I might just want to be. I can just pick up and go on a weekend now. Finally, right? I've waited my whole life to get to the point where I can just got to do my thing. So I'm not in that same place anymore. And I've really thought about that. And he did not, it was not a good, I didn't buy it because I thought, no, I've sort of did this before with a man I dated, and he had a preteen and then a teenager. She was wonderful. Just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful child. But there was always juggling going on.
Yeah.
And there was just always, the chance that something was going to happen big at school and you had to be there, and that's all well and good. But for for somebody who has like an 8, 9, 10-year-old, now if they're 18, that's a different story. But for me, I'm not in that same place, and it took me a long time of being single to recognize that is on my shopping list for a relationship is can't have young kids.
And I just think that's good to know what you want, because then you can like figure it out early on and tell them that, so it doesn't get to a point where it hurts
not even
anybody.
Go out. Just swipe left.
I think that's good. And for me, it's just a little bit more confusing because I can't completely limit myself, and so I don't know how to be a stepmom. I don't know how to deal with another parent in the situation who might hate me for just dating their ex, but I also could fall in love with these kids and end up not liking their dad. You know what I mean? So like I've seen all of these situations play out. That's why I know what can and cannot happen. And so I would think very hard about that. It's very hard, but I would not want to meet these kids before I knew for sure that I actually had a very strong interest in this person.
Like I said, that's one of our total episodes will focus down the road on that issue, because I do think that is important to discuss in this day and age of dating and the divorce rates. Chances are you're going to meet somebody with children. What is the right time? Even if not only when they're younger, but even adults.
Yeah.
If they're adults, and when is the right time to meet your significant other's kids, for them and for you? Do you have anything else on your list?
I kind of touched on this, but overall, I I want someone who wants to grow with me and seeks new opportunity and doesn't just want to be with someone who is kind of afraid of change or in a stuck mindset. I think we all can go through phases where we're kind of like in settle mode, which I feel like I've been in that for the last year because it was a little all over the place. But I just want someone who is open to change, open to new opportunity, because I don't want to be stuck in the same place for years and just being with someone, which it's kind of the same going on adventures and your point of like wanting to go hiking and stuff like that. I want someone who wants to move forward in life and is willing to grow and not afraid of the options, but just willing to kind of try things.
What about when it comes to your career changes? If you make career changes, which we won't let you do, but if you decided that was in the cards for you, what about that? Like, what if you had to move across the world to go be a producer on I think just be willing to talk about it and figure it out, even if that means long distance temporarily. And if it doesn't work, then we figure it out. But it's always worth just like, hey, let's try this and see. Can I chime in here with an experience that I had? And it hit me when you were talking about that. Is my ex-husband was phenomenal at supporting my career changes and choices. And I had a lot of them in our marriage. You have to figure when he met me, I was a television news reporter and I was always on the go. Like I was always going out of town and I was always covering big stories at the drop of a hat. I was on the road. He was supportive of that. When I left that job and went to a night shift as a news reporter at another TV station in town, he was supportive of that. He was supportive when I decided what was best for my kids is to stay home for a year and a half and do a lot of voice work, which I did on the side. He was supportive of that, which meant he had to work extra jobs. When I came to work at KSL in Salt Lake City as the morning show reporter for television news, he was supportive of that, and we worked opposite shifts for a long time. Having that support system to keep my career going, with him being willing to also adjust, which I was adjusting too, it was both of us. It was really a team effort. And then I decided in 2009, when I got a call from the FBI, that I wanted to take a shot at being one of their spokespeople. And I ended up getting that job, and he was supportive of that. And then I came back to TV news. So, there can be a lot of good, even in divorce relationships, that come out of that. And the support factor there for me to jump from job to job, it was often what was best for the family. It was best for pay. Sometimes it was best for experience. Like my job with the FBI was amazing for experience. So having that was one of our shining moments as a couple. No, so I agree with you on that.
Yeah, like I think just having that support is on my list, and just being able to know like we're going to be okay as we figure these things out because I have this support here. And so it's something I think about when I ever do have kids, because I picture myself having kids by myself because I'm single. But just like I need the support to be able to continue to have a career, but both ways. Like that's a bigger topic, but it's something I've never quite fully understood how it would work in my life.
But when we're going over like our list and seeing if this individual matches, and there may not be a perfect match, I understand that. I think it's also important to have that conversation with him.
No, it's a big conversation.
The reality is we live in a day and age now where life changes so quickly. There might be a layoff. There might be a better job opportunity. Whatever the case may be, you may just want career growth. And so you have to take a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn in your career, which is exciting, but it disrupts a pattern that has to be hey, my career is very dynamic and I might at the drop of the hat get a great job offer, and it might take me to another state, another country. I think that is a great thing to do. Yeah. I'm not saying on date one, but
once you get into the relationship more and you're talking about actually building a life together, that's where those conversations come in. But I think I would want to do the same for them. So I would hope that someone would just be willing to work with me as much as possible.
Can I give you one more thing on my shopping list? What do you think about this? Is this too prima Debbie of me? I can't date a man who doesn't know what the world he's doing with his finances.
Yes.
Is that too persnickety?
No, I think it's because you have experience and you're smart. I
Yeah.
wouldn't think of anything of it because I'm still kind of young, but it's good red flags to watch out for.
Yeah, when you get to be my age, which I know is a long ways off for you, lucky.
Not really.
It is. It goes fast. I will. Spoiler alert. You can't get in a situation where you're financially independent and you're okay, and then end up with somebody who is a financial train wreck.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It'll potentially financially destroy me, in my view. And so I think there are ways to red flag this, and we can talk about those in a later episode, because I have I lived through Red Flag City, and I was literally getting smacked in the face with red flags, and I was setting them aside and trying to turn them into green flags. But what I realized from that experience, and it is truly a whole episode, is I cannot afford in my 50s to make the same financial mistakes and create, put myself in a total financial debacle that I could in my 20s when I had time to recover. So for me, dating at my age, dating a guy with, a pattern of financial problems and credit cards through the roof and secret accounts and bankruptcies and job changes where he's going backwards all the time is now, thanks to the lesson that I learned, it's just not, it has to be on my shopping list. Is like, I don't know how I'm going to handle that down the road, other than doing like a stealthy background check on somebody, which I'm more than happy to do. But I will say one thing is paying attention to those red flags that I've noticed in prior relationships that I tended to ignore because I wanted so badly for the relationship to work out. And guess what? In the end, it didn't anyways.
It doesn't work out. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And you said something bouncing from job to job, like in a non-consistent manner. It's not job growth by what you mean by that. I think that's also just kind of something to keep an eye out for, is if you notice that they're not kind of staying in a stable position, or they don't have like even a passion. I understand someone being lost, and that's like my age. I definitely feel like I can see that more at my age, and I feel like I support people as much as I can.
Or like trying to find their way into
and like
their
right
career
now at
calling.
my age, I'm kind of like, I still am okay. Like if you're around 30, 35 and you're still doing that, I'm kind of getting a little bit of red flags, but I just have seen it over my 20s, but I feel like we're all figuring it out in our 20s, so I'm not as harsh on that. But if they're not kind of stable in at least the field or general idea of what they're wanting to do, that is kind of something you have to be on the lookout for, so they're not just kind of bumming through different jobs versus trying to figure out the right fit and doing everything that you can to get a stable opportunity. So it's just something it's a pattern that you can watch.
Yeah, so definitely, like, I'm not saying zero bankruptcies on my shopping list, but I'm saying once you get past one, and there has to be a good reason for it. To me,
learning lesson and try not to get back
there. It was 20 years ago, and you had some financial troubles, and everybody got sick at the same time and ended up in the ER, whatever the case may be, and you all had to live off credit cards because people lost jobs. Those are reasons that you can understand with enough time that's passed that the behavior's been corrected. But to at 56, 57, 60 years old, get into a relationship, potentially a future marriage, and get into a situation where he's got a, bankruptcy record as long as a, criminal's rap sheet.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And I can't even buy a house with the guy, or the IRS is knocking at our door. That's a huge no thank you for me.
Yeah, and something that you shouldn't have to deal with. So that's just going to cause more stress over peace. Protect your peace is how I would say that.
How do you feel about this also being on my list? They have to be divorced outside of a year. Finalized. Not sort of going through a divorce, thinking about filing for divorce. Finalized, moved on, 1 year.
I think that's a very good idea.
You do?
And that's also probably same even if you're not in a legal situation just being separated, maybe not a year, but like more than 2 months being separated or something like that, because I think that people are still attached and it can just be unwieldy. But then that conversation, because I feel like I haven't ever dated anybody who's been divorced, but I'm 29, so that's definitely going to be an option out there. It can cause a lot of problems that you don't want to get entangled in.
I like the idea of there being a breathing period between the D-Day and the point where I show up on the scene. They've had a chance to work through some of their differences, and 1 year might not even be long enough. Mm-hmm. You know, if it's messy divorce and there's still a lot of anger, I just feel as though those things are really difficult for me to swoop in on and try to be, you know, the therapist and the mitigator, and also to be looked at by their former significant other as a problem.
Right. No, that's true.
So I feel like a 1 year waiting period. Some people would say, I've had men I've dated say it's a 2 year waiting period, which is very noble. I started dating a year after I got divorced. After my divorce was finalized, I got into a serious relationship, and I felt like eventually got into a serious relationship. I felt like that was too soon.
It may have been.
It was too soon for me.
Yeah.
You know, it was just.
Well, you have to heal, and then you have to also get through the legal part of it. So there's two things happening at once. So.
And you know, my kids are still healing. Mm-hmm. My judgment was probably clouded by just a lot of weighty decisions that had to have been made just a year earlier. But you know, live and learn, and I have now been date free for a good year. I'm just between the last actually almost 2 years from the time I dated somebody more seriously, and then I've waited. And I think even in dating relationships, it's a good idea to just give yourself a break and show yourself some grace and recover.
Yeah. Well, and even someone who hasn't been divorced or been through that at all, I just think that that's a good thing to even be aware of, because I may start dating someone, they're just like, oh, I am recently divorced, and I'd have no idea what that means. So it's good to just ask questions and be, I don't know. I wouldn't have even thought about that until you just said that. So this is a good teaching moment for me as well.
What's your deal breaker on number of divorces?
I don't know. I'm 29. They've got more than 2. 1, negative 1.
Let's just say this. It's conceivable. It is possible.
Oh, it's totally possible
that you will start dating somebody who's in their early 30s, 33, 34, and they've gone through 2 divorces already.
It's very possible. I would say, 2. But I don't know, 1. I want to say 1. At my age, if they're 35 and old, I wouldn't be dating anyone 35 and I wouldn't older than 35. I think that's my probably limit. But that's a tough question. I've never thought about that before.
I had a wake-up call recently when I saw somebody post on Facebook that they were in their 4th marriage. She is a female, and she is significantly older than her new spouse, and she said it was working great. So usually when I think of multiple divorces, I think about the men I'm going to date, how many divorces do they have, and I thought, okay, it happens in reverse too. You know, and I've had one marriage, and I'm being really particular about the whole concept of ever getting remarried again. So I'm not even down that road yet. Some women I know, they say, oh, I'm for sure going to be remarried. I don't know if that's in my DNA. At this point, it doesn't feel like it is. Doesn't mean I won't have some awesome long-term relationship with a partner. And if he's out there, that's great. And if he's not, I'm okay. But I went to dinner with a guy, and he has had 3 divorces. And when he said that, I had just about swallowed the chicken leg whole. So I'm like, oh, that's a lot. Like, that is a lot. And then we had to go through all of the reasons for the divorce. And then through him, got to know each one of his ex-wives and why they were to blame. And I mean, it was just that was dinner. But all I could think about is, oh, that's a lot of alimony.
Right.
That's a lot of payments going out every single month. And are you paying their health insurance? Like, how does that work? So for me, it became in the moment a total distraction that I was like, I don't quite know how to deal with 3 ex-wives.
Right.
There's a club for that.
I wouldn't know how to do that either.
Yeah, that
I couldn't do one.
So to me, it's going to be a real stretch for me to go beyond 2 divorces.
Yeah, and I mean, context matters in every situation, but for like, I'm thinking about people within my age range, like that would be so many, and I'd be like, nope, sorry, gotta go. There's something wrong here. It'd be a big red flag. But I don't know. Overall, it's just context matters. But I don't know. My number's still probably 1 for my age, because if you have multiple divorces by 32 or so, I'd be a little nervous. So.
I love our shopping list.
Yes.
I really do. And for me, it's just about, I would just realize I've been fumbling around in the dating world when you and I came up with this idea of what's on your list. I'm like, what list?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we should write a list.
Well, I've written some of the list. Now it's actually, can I follow the list?
Okay, so tell me about what your plan is for that.
Oh, I don't know. I'm working it out. But just like being aware of like just certain, I don't know, red, green flags and stuff like that, and asking questions, not bombarding somebody on a first date. That's not how I see that, but seeing signals on, are they making plans with me? Are they here to support me? Are they willing to actually try in this relationship? You can see those things early on without putting a lot of pressure on someone, seeing if they're actually serious about doing this type of stuff. And then as time goes on, you just kind of, I think, open it up to those bigger conversations that we just had.
So now our challenge is seeing if we can sort of follow our shopping list.
Yes, kind of.
All
Hold
right.
ourselves accountable.
Hey, I have an idea. Let's go grocery shopping.
Yeah. Okay, it's time for our Dater Hater segment.
Dater Hater.
And we have a voicemail from one of our listeners.
Hey, Debbie, Caitlyn, this is Travis, 43-year-old single male living in the Daybreak area from West Valley, born and raised in Utah. Been single for almost a couple years now. Previous relationship was 6 years engaged, actually. Never been married, and went from being engaged to selling our home. So things happened, but anyhow, just wanted to kind of feedback. I've been listening to your guys' podcast. First of all, I think it's fantastic. You guys came together and you're doing this. It's good input, definitely for me, from my perspective, and I'm pretty sure others can find the value in it. So really appreciate what you guys are doing. So a dating story, this kind of blows my mind is, I finally started putting myself out there after, the first year and a half of just working on myself, making sure I'm ready and all that good stuff. And I'm old fashioned, so I don't mind taking someone out to dinner. If they would prefer to do that. Obviously a coffee meet would be ideal for the first date, but she preferred a dinner, did the steakhouse, seemed pretty good. Conversation was great. Shared a lot of laughs, eye contact, all that good stuff. And here's the kicker: is towards the end, I don't think she noticed when we first walked in to meet the greeting part, but I have tattoos on my legs. Well, they're almost wrapped up completely, that are very visible when I'm wearing shorts, obviously, and a smaller tattoo on my forearm, and the rest are hidden, with the shirt. So I guess I didn't appear as somebody that was tatted. So after we walked out, she kept staring at my legs, and I'm like, oh. And she kind of seemed offish, like the energy just shifted immediately. So I was kind of shocked, and then we said goodbye, gave her a hug, just polite gentleman, vibe, and just kind of went our ways. And I get the text, and I don't feel like we're, quite, meshing together well. And I kind of felt, well, I kind of feel different, but all right. And I'm thinking it was the tattoos that kind of killed it for me. I don't think she liked it. I think it might have been a deal breaker. So I'm kind of wondering if you want to maybe even talk to your audience. Is tattoos a deal breaker? Is that a big deal? Is that something that you should be more upfront about when dating? If it is, I honestly don't worry about it. I think I got great stories for mine and don't think they're offensive or anything. But that was wild because I really felt a connection. And next thing you know, I felt like I got judged and put out. So anyhow.
I think he definitely got judged, and that's just unfortunate. That's my takeaway. And I don't know. I think that everyone can have their own beliefs and have something set in their mind, and that's totally okay. But I don't know. I prefer not to judge people on their physical appearance. If I can help it, I know that sometimes that naturally happens, but it makes me sad that happened to him if there was a connection there.
Travis, first of all, thanks. I'm glad to hear that you're listening to the podcast and you're taking tips away from it. That's awesome. And thank you so much for sharing your story. First, I want to acknowledge that he took her out to dinner on their first date because that's something that she would have preferred. You know, a lot of it, for me, it's a coffee date because it keeps it a little more simple than dinner. But the fact that he's like, I'm old fashioned, I'm happy to take her out to dinner, I think that's awesome. I would say this about tattoos, and Caitlyn, this is to your point, is that some people are just not going to accept tattoos. Yeah. And Travis, follow your gut on that. If somebody is staring at your legs and you have they're wrapped in tattoos, and then a few minutes later you get a text or later that night or the next day that it's not going to work out after you had this great interaction over dinner, then follow your gut on that. It's probably, let me tell you how I think you can avoid continuing to connect with a woman who has concerns over tattoos. And not all women will. They just won't. But some will. I would say update your dating profile. I don't think you have to show all of your tattoos, but certainly let's have a full body shot with your tattoos, your leg tattoos in that full body shot. We should be doing that anyway, a full body shot. Yeah. I think that's, something from a little bit of a distance. Maybe you're out hiking. You're looking cool in the back country. And it shows your tattoos. So it's not a surprise for somebody. Also, it prevents you from having to pay for dinner for somebody that's just going to judge you based on your tattoos. They aren't your person, obviously, I guess. But it just makes me, because, I don't mind tattoos. I like tattoos. I think there's a story, like he said, there's a story behind it. And it just makes me curious. If she would have just asked, why'd you get that tattoo? Maybe she already had it set in her mind as to that she's like, no, that's not for me. And that's okay, A-okay. But the story behind it, maybe it was a stupid story, who knows? But it could have just taken the connection to a different level that maybe could have opened her mind to it, because I don't know. I think it's on the outside, and what matters is on the inside and the story behind it in a lot of those cases. And so you can even address it in your dating profile. Yeah, and that's a great point. My favorite tattoo is the one on my left leg, and I got it for this. The story behind it is, whatever the story is, and put that out there. Yeah. So I would say almost like confront it in a way. Just put it out there so you don't have to think, you don't have to worry as whether you're being judged for them. If a woman knows you have tattoos and she doesn't have a problem with it, then you're good to go. That's not going to be an issue. The other thing I would say is ask her. Mm-hmm. To say, hey, I've had men ask me this. I'm trying to improve upon my dating skills. Was there something that I said, I did, that made you say you didn't feel a connection? Yeah, I did notice. I don't know if they had addressed the reason, but it seems like he just came to the conclusion that was why. And I think it would be smoother sailing to just kind of put it out there, and she could have said, you have tattoos and it's really just not what I'm looking for. And like I said, that's fine. Well, you could ask the specific question. You think maybe it was my tattoos? Yeah. Because I want to know, You don't have to convince them either way. It's just being transparent. But she also doesn't have to say anything if it was just first date. But I think that it always helps to give context. I think you could ask her a direct question. Like, is it my tattoos? Please be honest with me. I'm trying to improve on my dating app profiles. And maybe that's just something that I need to put out there. Mm-hmm. And if you had it out there on your dating profile already, and she knew about it, then there's pretty much no excuse. Yep. So I think if you make your tattoos visible on your dating profile, it doesn't have to be all of them. You lean into the fact that you have tattoos, because let's face it, tattoo removal is uber expensive. It hurts, from what I understand. And the odds that you're going to be able to remove all that, it's just not going to happen. You've gotten those tattoos because you have a story behind those tattoos.
People black out their tattoos as well. But the story, like I said, even if you are getting it removed and you hate it,
tattoos tattoos are part of the package, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to run to the tattoo removal clinic
just for a date.
Sign up for the monthly fee of getting, hoping that this works out. So it's part of the package. Lean into it. Put it out there on your dating profile. Doesn't have to be every single one of your tattoos, but the right woman is going to come along who just loves you for who you are.
Yeah. And I think the tattoos can make someone more interesting, but I think that always be open to people and learning their stories, even if you know that that's not what you want exactly. But I just think that it's important to ask questions and get to know who they really are and why they have such tattoos, for example.
I would also address this is the fact that it sounds like from his voicemail he left us that Travis, she let you know right away.
Yeah, which is that kudos. I think that's great. So
thank her for that, right? Because I wouldn't want to do is date somebody for months and then have that be the excuse that they broke up with me.
Oh, you have tattoos. I don't like you.
Maybe it's one of her deal breakers. We've talked about what our deal breakers are, and we're going to continue to talk about that more and more on the show, what our deal breakers are, what our shopping list is, and why we have them and how we stick to them. Maybe that's on her list.
Yeah. Maybe
it just is. It's just something. And so the fact that she notified you right away through a text, even though it's heartbreaking, I always feel so badly when I get those kinds of texts. So I understand. I do understand. It's for probably different reasons, 100 different reasons why they don't feel a connection with me. But the idea that you get that text right away sure feels a lot better than they string you along for months.
I agree. I think that it's better just to cut it off when it's fresh.
Travis, thank you for the phone call. If you want to call our Dater Hater hotline and leave us a message, we have a phone number.
Dater Hater.
It's 801-575-5599. That's 801-575-5599. And you can share your crazy dating stories, your regular dating stories, but we just want to hear the tea from you guys.
And we might play it back on the air. Hear your story along with the rest of us and also our dating advice after you leave your Dater Hater message for us. Thanks for listening to another episode of Dating at Her Age. Don't forget, a new episode drops every Thursday morning.
We'll meet you here next week.